Hello, students, and welcome back for another edition of Mr. Hargrove's math class, where today we're going to be talking about personal finances, and specifically we're going to focus on the budget while we're in this financial literacy unit. So let's make sure you have pencil and paper, and we're going to briefly go through some notes before you get started on the assignment. The learning target and success criteria are the same, and they read as such. In this lesson, we will identify the components of a personal budget, calculate the percentage that a category comprises of the total budget, and we'll use the budget to calculate the minimum income needed. So we're definitely going to be talking about a lot of things that will be beneficial and useful for you as you start to earn money, which is something that I hope you all plan to do in the near future. This is the critical vocabulary. These words, you need to know what they mean because you're going to hear them and see them used a lot. But what is a budget? A budget, it's an itemized list of likely income and expenses for a given time period. A lot of times a budget is based on a monthly basis, but it could be done on a weekly as well. But for today's lesson, you're going to see it done on a monthly basis. Income is obviously money that is earned by a person or paid to a person, typically for work. Wage is related to the income. It's a fixed amount that is earned in return for work. So an example, if Sarah earns $15 per hour, it means that her wage is $15 per hour. That's how much she's earned. That's the fixed amount that she gets every hour. However, wages can also be calculated on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. It just depends on how they present it to you. Savings, that's money set aside for the purpose of future use. And then you need to understand variable expenses and fixed expenses. If it's variable, it's a cost that changes from period to period, so it varies. So an example of this would be like your utilities, your entertainment, food, clothing, gas. They change based on the amount that you use them. You know, your water bill goes into your utilities. That bill is going to go up and down based on the amount of water you use. The same is true for the electricity. Same is true for entertainment, food, clothing. The more you do it, the more you use it, then the higher that expense. So it's a variable expense. Fixed expenses are those that don't change. You know, the amount that you pay for your house from month to month, that stays the same typically. Same thing with your car note, that stays the same. The money that you decide to save for college, retirement, emergency savings, those amounts stay the same. So if it's an expense that stays the same, then it's a fixed expense. So for today, we're going to focus on the Lorenzo monthly family budget, and you see it here listed in the circle graph. It has the total amount that is spent on the various categories. So we'll answer these 4 questions, and you'll be all set. The first question, determine the total of all budgeted expenses in the Lorenzo family monthly budget. So what is the total of all of the expenses? Well, to figure that out, what we need to do is we need to add up all of these totals. So we need to take the housing amount, which is $1,540. We need to add the housing, food, clothing, entertainment, transportation, gas, college savings, utilities, emergency savings, retirement savings, and taxes. Add up all those dollar amounts. And when you add all the dollar amounts, what you get is $5,500. So $5,500 is how much money the Lorenzo family spends every month. They spend $5,500, and it's important for them to know that. The next question says, what percent of the total budget is for college savings? Well, to figure out the percent that's for college savings, I'm going to just move over here and do a percent bar. And we already know 100% is going to go right here. And since the question says what percent, X is going to go right there. And the total budget we already know is $5,500. 100. And we need to look at specifically college savings. So how much money is spent on college savings? That amount is right there. $550 is spent on college savings. Okay, so now I'm going to cross multiply and just solve for x. So 5,500 x equals 100 times 550. So that's going to be 5,500x equals 55,000. Going to divide both sides by 5,500. And that's going to give me x equals 10%. So college savings is 10%. That's how we do this. Now I'm going to erase part of this so we can actually see problem number 3. And problem number 3 says if one parent worked if one parent worked 160 hours during the month and earned a total of $35 per hour, would their income be enough to cover their the budget for the month? And we got to remember, this is the budget for the month. The Lorenzo family needs to make at least $5,500 in order to afford everything over here. You got to make at least $5,500. So if they work 160 hours and earn $35 an hour, let's see how much money they will make. I'm going to do that by doing 160 times 35. And when you multiply those two numbers together, you get $5,600. So the answer to this question is in a yes. They need to earn at least $5,500, but if they make $35 per hour as a wage and they work 160 hours during the month, then one parent would be able to afford the budget and you'd have $100 left over. So question number 4 says, what is the minimum annual salary that will be needed to meet this budget? So that's a key word, annual salary, because when we think annually, that means we're looking at a year. Now, I know that the Lorenzo family needs to make $5,500 every month, but the question is, if they, well, what do we need to do to figure out how much they need to earn per year? Well, since there's 12 months in a year, we're going to multiply 5,500 by 12. And when we do that, we get 66,000. So that means that the Lorenzo family needs to earn $66,000 per year to afford this budget. And you have to ask yourself, well, if they can't afford the budget, then what items are probably going to go first? And you can look at this list and figure out, typically with budget, the things that go first are, if you can't afford it, then you got to cross out entertainment. You may have to cross out college savings. You may have to cross out retirement savings, emergency savings, if you can't afford the budget, or you get a higher paying job where you can afford the budget. Well, that's all I have for you today. Thanks for your attention, and look forward to seeing you again at the next edition of Mr. Hargrove's Math Class.